Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dewy del Mar. Today we're finally completing the suburbs we started almost 3 months ago and adding some much needed public transportation. We'll tackle metros, buses, transit-oriented development, and all the services that these districts need. So without much further ado, let's begin. It feels so good to be back in Dewy del Mar, not gonna lie. For the past few videos, if you're new to the channel, I've been trying my hand at a European city, and let's just say, it is the most humbling experience I've ever had. I'm literally getting hundreds of comments giving me a crash course in European history and European design, so not Dewy del Mar though, this feels like coming home. So where did we leave things off? That's right, the small North American port town of Port Angeles, modeled after the real Port Angeles here in Washington State where I live. But we got our lumber yard here, our tram that used to be a lumber line going to all the lumber areas in the Discovery Park area, and then some fake fishing industry, and of course all the concrete that's just blinding us all right now. And then we made use of the WASHI 776 More Water Transportation mod, which is currently not in use, but I don't blame them, it's 2:30 in the morning. 2 pieces of feedback though, I did ask for some names for our lumber company, and the most voted comment from Bach_EXE, or Bach Executable, not sure which one, said, oh, we're on Gardenia Lane. That's kind of a nice floral name, I guess. Let's name this Gardenia Lumber Company, and I think that's perfect. And then from Blizzard 547, they said that we should replace the Firewatch Tower with a French water tower for our lighthouse, just because it looks a little more like an actual lighthouse. So I did swap that out, and of course we have our extremely helpful little red warning light on the top there to warn off ships from impending doom. For today's episode, though, I would like to complete the rest of these suburbs. Portside Commons will be a more industrial area. Costa Ladera and all these windy roads will be suburban houses like we have in our suburbs of Los Altos and Sunrise Hills and yada yada yada. Vallecito, I'm thinking more affordable housing, but the pièce de résistance will be our transportation hub along the metro line here. So we'll get a metro station, bus station, and then finally we'll get some bus routes going all throughout the hills here. And in fact, I'm thinking let's do the transit hub first, just so there's a station in place ready to bring people to the new neighborhoods as we zone things in. So we're going to start by getting rid of this section of track, because we're going to do an elevated metro stop right around here. What is going on with that? Guess we're getting rid of that too. And let's make sure the terrain is level with Beechwood Street. But since this is a transit hub, I'm thinking we should get some commercial here to take advantage of the pedestrian traffic. Obviously some parking for the park and ride and customers. And then finally, let's get a post office to handle, or to cover all the new suburbs, which has very little postal coverage, I think. But let's get a 2-lane road coming off at a 90 from this intersection here. And then we'll stick the elevated metro stop right at the end there. Okay, let's reconnect these lines as well, and I think we'll have to redo some of these angles. Okay, I think that's looking fine. This will be a little tricky though, because we want to make sure the descent grade is gentle enough. I want to try to get it under 4%, but I'll be fine with 5% if we can't do that. Ooh, I think that's 4% right there. And then what about the rest of the way? 3%. Okay, so I think that's good. Just make sure we have enough coverage or clearance under the bridge here. That should be a-okay as well. For the rest of the station block, I'm thinking we'll do a small bus station in this corner right here, Japanese post office in this side, and both will face the access road there, so either the buses or the post vans are not clogging up Beechwood Street, at least in this area right there. So let's begin by actually making sure that this road is transit only. And then, yeah, we'll do the small bus station facing the corner here. Good enough. And then small Japanese post office, or just Japanese post office, again facing the access road. For the transit riders though, I mentioned we need parking, so we're going to do a multi-level garage in this block right here. And yes, they will have to cross the street, but I think I'm okay with that. We'll just make sure that there's a light at that intersection. Can also do a little bit of intersection cleanup with Move It to bring back these crosswalks. Ooh, that is not what I expected. Is there a wayward node? Indeed. Let's retry that. There we go. That's what I expected. Okay, excellent. I think I don't want to zone offices right next to the bus stop. I want like a more pleasant view if this is kind of your first time in the area and you're coming in on the subway from the downtown. So let's get a nice park in this stretch right here. And the one I'm thinking is the Passage Park. Yeah, this guy right here. We're going to have it facing Beechwood Street like that, but the access road is going to be over here. What's kind of cool is I think that pathway actually connected to the bus station itself. We can do a little bit better though. Let's get a parking road with the parking facing the park entrance right there. And yeah, we'll do this custom one where you can still go both directions, but we only got parking on one side. Actually, I don't know why we can't have parking on both sides. Let's try that. Yeah, I think both sides is good because then we'll have parking for businesses on this side of Cooper Lane. So let's just zone in a couple of offices. So stops in place, let's finally think about zoning. I'm thinking I'm gonna get rid of this cul-de-sac here and blast away this little mound of dirt, which in the grand scheme of things is not that much, so I'm okay taking some of this dirt and saying we used it to fill in this plot of land right there. And I'm doing that because I want a bigger commercial asset to take up this block. The one I have in mind is the Morrissey's Supermarket. Because again, this is supposed to be pretty suburban, so can't be a suburb, or an American suburb at least, without a big grocery store. Let's back this up here. Actually, yeah, we'll get rid of that little piece of dirt as well. So one of the entrance roads can at least line up with this intersection right here. I'm also wondering if I should just replace all these roads that have been problematic with the nodes here with the one with the bigger sidewalk, just so we have, better pedestrian access. The rest can stay as the thinner ones, but yeah, let's get the Morrissey Supermarket right in here, and then this will just be a giant parking lot, I think. Although it does have parking built in, so maybe you can do a little mix of both. Yeah, how about this? We'll get some commercial assets in this corner, and then bigger parking lot right along here, and more parking for the transit riders, I guess. We'll do an outdoor uncovered one though. Can I fit in this one? There we go. Okay, yeah, a lot of parking. So we'll do some commercial in here and some offices, and then we'll get into some more medium density in Vallecito. We'll do a high school, and then this super block, or this set of blocks right here, will be more affordable housing. I actually kind of like this Chinese high office asset 4x4. It's not too big if we lock it in place. So I'm going to make sure that that does not upgrade and just become a giant skyscraper. But I mean, it's the same height as the multi-level parking garage, so I'm okay with that. I'm going to bring back this asset a little bit just so we can have a pedestrian road or like some kind of access road for these businesses on the other side. And let's do this narrow one that we don't really need car access here. This is just for people walking through. For the rest of these 4 blocks right here, I'm thinking we'll do medium residential, kind of smaller stuff. Make sure they don't get too tall. And then maybe a couple shops on this side before we get into our affordable housing unit over there. So let's actually break up these 4 blocks with a couple of pedestrian roads. So it looks like they're a little more planned. And I'll fix that, but yeah, I think 3x3s are plenty of space for some medium density stuff. And you know what, we can fill in these 2 remaining blocks, maybe this one right here, with a little bit more office and commercial. Because again, I'm just trying to get my job numbers up. I haven't taken a look at unemployment in a little bit, but in Dewy del Mar, we are at 41.4%. And I think, here, let me bring that back up again. I mean, not too surprising. We only have 70,000 jobs in a city of 180,000 people. So maybe that's my problem. I just need a ton more office spaces and, yeah, jobs. So let's zone it up. Anyway, I'm okay getting one more slightly taller building here. Again, we just need the high density stuff. Although I did eat up all the demand, nice, but it'll come back. And I think, again, this is just a good, access point for a lot of workers to come to. So let's get one more tower, just kind of round things off right along there. And again, I will make sure this does not get any taller. And I also do not like that color. So let's make this, ooh, that is actually a signature building I plopped down, that's right. Let's give this a more, drab color. Suck your soul away as you go into the office. And of course, we'll get a little bit more parking in between these two assets, I think. And we can do the same treatment we did over here by Passage Park using a parking road. On this side of Vallecito is where I want to get a high school, because we only have the one small high school way over in Port Angeles, and this poor thing is almost at capacity, so we definitely need another one for this area. And I'm thinking, let's do the City High School. It's got pretty good capacity. Yeah, 800 to start, and we can always upgrade it, but it's also just a good size for the area. I'm thinking I kind of want more space for this compound though, so let's bring back Sycamore Street and have it come into this intersection instead. So we're gonna go to our slope terrain tool, and 8% should be plenty. So that gives us more space. Again, I don't want the high school facing Beechwood Street though, since that is a collector. So let's actually connect these two intersections, and that road will kind of be the access road for the high school. So we'll do a little bit more grading, kind of make sure the terrain is amenable to this compound. I keep calling it a compound, this high school, this campus, that's the word I'm thinking of. And I'm gonna use a parking road since some high schoolers do have cars, but we'll come off from here. And actually, I'm just going to do this for a second because I want to get the high school in this corner here. And then on this side, we'll just kind of come straight off from this intersection here. Get rid of that. And before I forget, I'm going to assign this to, I think, most of these districts. Obviously, we got the small high school out there. Actually, we don't need that one. But let's get, I think that should be okay. As well as the post office. Pretty sure I forgot to do that. That is not the post office. That is the post office. We'll just get, these surrounding districts. Obviously, though, we need some sports complexes, so we can at least add the rooftop basketball courts to that one. I just love how that looks from above. I want to do more, though. I want to get the basketball center in this corner right here, and that is one of the bigger parks. Yeah, this guy right here, and this just barely fits, so this is perfect. So we got 5 basketball courts, that's good. I was on my high school tennis team, so I'm a little partial to tennis. Let's get a tennis court right behind it. And I've been playing this game for 2 years now, and I still mess up these 3 tabs. All right, so there's that. One more little pocket park in the corner here, I think, in case it's a sunny day and students want to walk out to have lunch outside. And my simulation is chugging right now. Wow. I'm gonna get this in the middle, but later when we do a little bit of detailing, we'll surround it with trees, landscape it, make it look a little nicer. Right next to the high school, I'd like to get down this kindergarten, which is technically like a welfare center, but I thought this would be a nice gesture to parents with both high school age kids and younger ones, easy to drop off both. I think I made a mistake though, having the road kink down into this intersection right here. Let's just come straight out so we can get it right next to the high school. And then we'll move that pocket park back. And this is gonna eat into the terrain even more, but I'm okay with that. Probably good to get this park away from the busier Beechwood Street anyway. Again, we can do some landscaping in there, although let's get one little small convenience store. And do I have to assign districts? I do. I think that should be okay for now. On this side is where our more affordable housing units will be, since you're right next to not just a metro stop, but a train line and a noisy highway, so I imagine this is not the most desirable land. I'm thinking let's stick with just the vanilla low rent, because the only other option is Eastern European and French, and both of those look pretty distinct, and I want this to be like a bland vanilla looking suburb. So I believe this is all, focus on Rosewood, lovely. So let's plop some down. I kind of want this to look like an apartment complex, kind of like what we got going over there. So I'll do them all in the corners and then have them kind of curve with beach lane here. Oh, and those are off kilter. What about this? All right, I'd rather make this symmetrical. I think that should be good enough for now. So in this corner, let's get a little park, maybe like a playground for all the kids living in the area. We'll do this small one. If I can find it. There we go, small playground. And I did notice there's no parking on this road, so I think maybe along here is where we can add some parking. But we'll need to do a little bit of terraforming. So let's bring out the terrain. And I feel like this is a good area for parking since, you know, right next to the track. Not a great place to have an apartment building. And we should probably squeeze in one more over here. If not, two more. In terms of services, I think this area deserves its own elementary school as well. Then we have like all primary levels, elementary, kindergarten, high school, and the closest elementary school is Los Altos, way up in the hills, so that's too far of a walk, I think, for kids. So let's get the small elementary school in this corner right here. Oop, and by small, I mean, yep, the Eastern European one. And you can see the playground's kind of sloping up the hill there, so easy remedy for that is just to make this side of Beechwood Street keywalled. That's looking a little better. I also want to get the police station, the North American police station, in this corner here, so it's more of like a service block right there. So if we go to our police tab, you can see this also just barely fits. If we do this way, we could maybe splice that in, but I think just easier solution. Let's turn it this way, and then we'll have a road coming off from that intersection right there. And how about, can we fit in a small little roundabout at the end there? Yes, we can. Lovely. So for the rest of Beechwood Street, I'm thinking more commercial along here. We'll connect some paths up, get some landscaping, and then more office and commercial by the track here. All right, a bit more detailing than I usually do when I just do a single neighborhood like this. Definitely wanted to show off, like, you know, good pedestrian access, plenty of parks and convenience stores embedded in the neighborhood itself. So just because it's a more affordable living area does not mean it can't have nice amenities. I did finally buy up this tile though, just so we could zone in this corner chunk right here. And then I'm gonna cordon off the rest of Beach Lane with a fence just so people can't, like, I don't know, spray paint or graffiti up the columns there. This one, let's just do a nice, how about a southwest commercial asset there. And then we'll go to our detailing tools. Yeah, we'll do fence high industrial too, why not? I'm leaving a little bit of green space for some nice landscaping so people aren't just looking right at the fence there. And then, of course, before I forget, let's assign our services. So police, I feel like we have a police station somewhere over, maybe in, Port Angeles. So let's just get these few districts here. And same for our little elementary school, which is already at capacity. Great. How's Los Altos doing? That is, oh, come on. You guys can pick up some slack. Here, we'll have this one also. It's already got Vallecito. Okay, so this one's just going to be crowded forever, basically. Let's start pushing towards the port area now with some more industrial and office-based development. Obviously, Portside Commons will be a huge job center, but I'm thinking we can extend this little office complex down here a little bit. We'll do some terraforming, kind of smooth out this random mound, push that dirt into the crevice there. But I'm also thinking we need another hospital in this area, because if we take a look at our healthcare coverage, we have the single small medical clinic in the Ortiz Oil Company commune that's serving basically the entire port area. And I imagine, there are a lot of dangerous jobs out here moving a bunch of heavy things, so that could use its own hospital complex. And then the closest one in the suburbs, I think, is probably the the colon clinic, of course, of Port Angeles. Not a lot of big hospital complexes serving all the new residences out here. So I think I want to get this Japanese hospital, and it just barely fits in this corner here. So let's smooth out this terrain, extend the road network down from here, and get this hospital in place. And like with our other service buildings out here, I don't really want the hospital facing Beechwood Street directly, so ambulances aren't turning directly onto this collector here. So instead, let's get an access road, and that's going to separate the hospital from another big parking garage. In fact, let's go with the same multi-level one. I mean, this just looks like it would totally fit a hospital. Duplication aside over there. But let's get it in the corner here. And then we'll have a road coming right out from Beechwood Street. Magnolia, lovely. So in this corner is where our Japanese hospital will go. And I guess I'm just using a bunch of Japanese assets. I just love how they look here. Let's get it right in here. I'm using a little bit of anarchy so we can shift it away from that cliff as far as possible. In fact, yeah, can we get the terrain even farther out just so there's not that dangerous ledge right there? Although, I mean, it's always going to be there, so we'll do what we can. Definitely need to get like some trees and a fence along there so debris doesn't fall down onto the tracks. And this is a pretty tight turnaround for, I guess, I don't know, medical supply trucks. So I think we should be able to fit a one-way alley looping around here. And no left turns onto nowhere. All right, I guess that's kind of a roundabout way to do a roundabout. But all right, let's extend this road network out here. I'm wondering maybe this should just be a regular road. One, in fact, that maybe goes down underneath the metro stop there and kind of connects to whatever road network we eventually do out here. I'm not sure if we'll do that this episode, but just to kind of put that in place, we'll do more parking in the office complex here, but this can slope down, I think. 6%, yeah, that's fine. So we'll just get a regular 2-lane road coming down from this intersection, and this is a big TBD. But from there we can come out, get another access road here, and maybe one more intersection there, and get a couple more offices. Okay, so I got a bare bones office complex. We can do a little bit of detailing later, get some trees, extend these surfaces, make it feel a little more developed. But we need to protect this ledge, as I mentioned. So we're going to turn this side of, Hemlock Street into a key wall. And that'll help the terrain look a little better. But as you can see, if we zoom in, it also has a protective fence to prevent people from, accidentally falling off the ledge here. I don't know if they'll be able to get to the tracks from there, so I'm not too worried about that. Over here, however, by the hospital, not only is this hedge way too short, I think, but I think we need some trees to protect from noise pollution coming from the metro. If you're in a hospital bed, the last thing you want to hear is just like a giant metro car roaring past you. And it's not the prettiest, but this fence industrial high, I think, will get the job done. even you can barely see it from here. But now that the hospital's in place, we can finally assign it, and we'll just get, I think, pretty much this entire half of the map. Roughly half. Moving on down to Portside Commons now, which will be another big industrial office job center for all our suburbanites out there. In this rectangle here, though, I want to get down this emergency battery station, which with a little bit of work can just barely fit. But I feel like the port, as a very important piece of infrastructure, needs some kind of backup in case the power plant goes offline for whatever reason. We don't want this just shutting down out of the blue, since there are so many jobs that depend on it. So I think a backup station is a good fit for the area. If we take a look, though, you can see we're going to have to do a little bit of terraforming and get rid of that roundabout. So let's delete this and get rid of that little nub of whatever street that is. The terrain also kind of slopes down, so what we're going to do is the battery station has its entrance on the left side there. So we're going to bring down the terrain to around this level, and then turn this side of Beechwood Street and the bridge there into quay wall, so it's all a flat piece of land. And we're basically just pushing the dirt that was in that random mound there into the empty space here. I'll do the quay wall first, and then once we see like what kind of road access it needs, we can turn this section back into grounding mode. But let's go to our power line, or our power tab. I'm going to rotate a little bit so it's more in line with the post sorting facility. I think the road is just ever so slightly off 90. But let's get this with a little bit of anarchy somewhere around here. Okay, so we do need to fix the road here, but I think terrain-wise, it's all okay, except down here by the post-sorting facility, you can see the roads being brought up by this asset. If you see that happen, an easy fix for this is to go to your pedestrian path, outline the asset, and then turn one side into a quay wall, and that should bring the terrain back down. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. And now we're going to use Move It to select all of our nodes and make sure they're at the same height as the battery station itself. So Control H, click, and there you go. Looking a little better, I think, but let's fix the road connection there, and then we'll connect our power line. Okay, sewer notification went away. For the power line, I'm thinking I'm gonna bring it down this transit corridor and kind of follow the highway here. We actually have an underground power line here that we can connect to. I think in the future, I would actually like to bring this above ground just because I think the power lines look cool. And the underground part came with the map, so we can tweak with that. We can tweak that later. But for now, let's just connect this up here. Okay, it's showing connected, and if we click on it, it is indeed charging. Okay, excellent. For the rest of the commons, this should be pretty straightforward, just a lot of industrial and office zoning, nothing too fancy, except maybe for a thin strip of parking on this side of Beechwood Street for just some amazing views of all these smokestacks out here. And to achieve that, I think we can bring this path way down into this intersection, and that should bring up the terrain there for, yeah, a thin strip of parking. So let's go to our pathways. I'm going to keep constant slope and grounding on. And let's bring this right into here. And it did indeed bring the terrain up a little bit. Let's turn the left side into our quay wall as usual. There you go, that looks a little better. And we'll bring this terrain up. If it'll let me, that's interesting. It's actually not really wanting to do anything. I wonder what happens if we just place our parking down. I'm thinking about this one. That's a little too wide. Yeah, let's do this medium single one. Okay, cool. The decals are actually in place, and it did flatten the land around it. So we could do maybe one more little office over here. Let's get rid of this section. Do a little bit of zoning here. Oh, there is no zoning, so do a little bit of plopping here. Excellent. Okay, so yeah, let's bring back this mounded dirt here so we can get some deeper assets, and then get some warehouses, some factories, the whole shebang. As we get closer to the houses that will be in these hills here, I'm going to use the clean industrial manufacturing zoning from Mamansi, just so we don't have smokestacks, blowing into these backyards here. And then I think we can fit in one more row of factories and offices behind this set here. So let's bring the road out like this. And in fact, here, we'll connect to this road as well. Or how about this? Let's S-curve into this intersection right there, and then we can just rezone some of those buildings. That way we don't have like 3 sharp 90-degree turns back to back to back in that section right there. And I'm wondering, how about we make this a small roundabout just so trucks can like drive right over it if they happen to be a little bigger. Is this the one I used over there? No, that was the local office building. Okay, we are okay to use this one. And if I were living over here, I would just be livid that this stupid office building just blocked my views, although admittedly your views kind of sucked regardless. Costa Ladera is somewhat of a conundrum to me in terms of land value because you do have this waterfront access leading right out into the ocean, and that's nice, but then obviously you're right next to the heavy pollution of the port, oil refinery, smokestack, nuclear power plant, and luckily all the wind is blowing that way, so you're not going to suffocate on the smog there, but definitely an eyesore, and I think for that reason this would not be very valuable land. With that in mind then, let's keep it humble. We'll do some US Northeastern commercial assets along Willow Street here, more lunchtime opportunities for the Portside Common workers, and then small single-family houses in the hills here, kind of like what we did in this half when we did the Port Angeles episode last time we were here. I do want to take advantage of the water here though, since it's going right near the road, so I'm thinking on this side at least, let's get a public boat ramp going down into the water. Over here, it's a little steep, as you can see, so I'm thinking let's just get some protective riprap and some bushes to make it feel a little wild, so no bougie waterfront property over here. Let's get to zoning then. So again, US Northeastern, low density business, which I feel like is always a good choice if you're going for like a low-key, small town industrial vibe. Let's get a few more. And then we'll need a parking lot for the boat traffic. Bring it right in there, and I'm gonna use Move It to make sure this is at the same level as the road itself. Marginally better. Okay, for the ramp, I'm not going to use an actual road since that'll kind of mess up the terrain and the road's not going anywhere. So instead, I'm going to use a custom pavement surface. But first things first, we got to make sure the slope is a little more gentle. Yeah, 12%. You're going to need some big 4x4 to get your boat in and out of this ramp. I'm going to stick with the lighter pavement surface too, because then we can get some stain and wet decals that'll really pop on this lighter surface here. I also want to get a pedestrian access ramp going into the water, and that helps people guide the boats in and out once they detach from the trailers there. So for that, I think obviously we're going to use our wooden leisure pier. One thing though, using this on land is a little weird. If you make your segment too long, pillars will appear at the bottom there and they will just completely mess up the terrain. So you got to keep these segments a little shorter. And unfortunately, there's no option for a constant slope on these for whatever reason. From here, it's okay if we start going at water level. And I think that ought to do it. That actually might be a little too far out, but nah, that's fine. And you can see it's still a little wonky with the terrain here. Does the pier try to make it seem like there's water underneath it? That's weird. I wonder if we can fix this with a little bit of Move It. Okay, marginally better. So let's get some stain and wet decals on the pavement, make it seem like boats are actually going into and out of the water there. And then I also want to try to use a car static prop to make it seem like there are people using this access ramp. Make it seem a little more lively. And shame on whichever car is having an oil leak right by the water here. And did I go overboard? Perhaps, but this car prop I have in mind, we're gonna go to our vehicles tab and let's get the pickup truck. Let's get 2 of these down, and the back wheels should just ever so slightly be in the water. And then we're gonna attach this trailer prop to them to make it seem like there's actually a boat coming to be picked up. I guess a really small dinghy in this case. The actual boat props are way too big for these cars, so no way they're hauling those up the ramp. But okay, sweet. Let's get some trees for landscaping, some rocks and bushes to hide the edge of the pavement there, and then more trees, bushes along the coast here. Again, not a very expensive area, so they would not spend the money to try to turn this into a big public beach, I think. Instead, it's probably just still a little wild, so no big bougie waterfront properties. And then, of course, we need a gas station for all the cars coming in and out of the boat ramp there. So let's plop this down, not rely on the vanilla zoning tools to randomly give us one. Let's do one in this corner here. And now that I think about it, do we have a gas station over in Vallecito, which as an American suburb definitely needs one. And I'm not seeing one, so let's get one. How about in this corner right here? And honestly, we could probably use 5 more, but I think that's fine for now. We'll do a big zoning spree of all the single-family houses in the hills here, Costa Ladera, Vallecito, and in fact, maybe get some townhouses. There's little cul-de-sacs too, but I want to do one more special asset over in this chunk of land right here. A lot of people lamented the fact that this Port Angeles High School did not have a big sports facility, which is something you'll often see in like classic American suburbs, and I think we can remedy that with a soccer field, using the open space here. It's a pretty meaty asset though, so I'm thinking let's bring back these roads. And I might even evict these houses and kind of cut across Linden Street a little sooner. And I'll bring this 2-lane road with parking all the way curving around down here. Okay, it gives us a little bit more wiggle room, so let's go to our level terrain tool, and the access road will come off from this intersection, I think, so let's get it at that level. All right, sports tab, large sports park, soccer field, here we go. I'm thinking let's have the access road come off on this side, so we'll go right up against the edge there. Have the road come down here, then take a 90, and here's where we can have some dedicated parking, because even high school fields have some pretty big parking lots if you've never seen one in like a big American suburb. Let's go get the 2-lane road no parking, since again, we'll have a dedicated lot there. We'll come out from here. Bring it down there, and let's try, can we fit the medium one? Oh yeah, this should be good. We even have room for like a little ice cream stand, aka a northeastern low-density commercial. All right, for a name, I guess let's call this, ooh, should it be Los Altos or Sunrise? Or you're in Costa Ladera, never mind. All right, Costa Ladera Fields. And now we can smooth out some of this terrain, maybe get like a protective fence on this side of the parking lot. And those retaining walls really make a difference, I think. We can smooth these out a little bit more. And I'm thinking let's also get a pedestrian path kind of winding up these hills so people living in this part of the neighborhood can more easily access it without having to walk along the sidewalk of the arterial there. And of course, every sports facility needs somewhere to store the balls, the helmets, whatever else you need. So let's get a small office building in this 3x2 right there. So now it's time for some good old-fashioned zoning and detailing. The plan is single-family houses all up in the windy hills here, pretty much what we did with the rest of the suburbs. And I'm thinking let's transition to some medium-density housing and row housing as we get closer to the office and industry area of Portside Commons and the commercial area of Vallecito. So maybe row houses, some mixed use along these cul-de-sacs here, and same for Mulberry Street, just so we don't have nice single-family houses right next to these big polluting factories. We'll then, of course, fill in these gaps with some pavement, some parking decals, stain decals, make it feel a little more gritty, especially for Portside Commons. All this I want to be paved over and covered in dirt. And then, of course, we'll just plaster the entire area with trees like we did with our other suburbs here. The goal for these single-family houses, though, is to pack them in pretty tightly like we did with the first half of Costa Ladera, not like we did with Los Altos, Sunrise Hills, and Minnesduith, where you can actually see the gaps from way out here. For a suburb that's this close to the downtown area, that's not very realistic. They would probably use all the land they could get. So yeah, we're going to go with the Costa Ladera approach. So that is the plan, and obviously I'll do any landscaping I see that might fit, for example, along the pathways here, shift any buildings around that need shifting, and just see what else we can do. So with that out of the way, let's get to detailing. Okay, welcome back to the new and improved Vallecito, Portside Commons, and Costa Ladera. Starting over by the water, got this path kind of winding around the inlet here, leading from the boat ramp to our existing path network that kind of goes along this pier park here at the edge of Port Angeles. And then filled in all the gaps with tightly packed single-family houses, trees, and then added a few more cul-de-sacs both here in Costa Ladera and up here in the hills of Vallecito. And then, of course, paved over all of our gaps here in the office complex and in Portside Commons. Although from this view, I see we have a duplicate tower here. I'm thinking, let's keep this one since this is kind of an office complex and it matches this tower right here. This one, however, just feels a little out of place. So let's replace it with a basic 2x2 office. Oh, and I zoned that one. Good for me. Also got this nice little park path ending on a roundabout and a wooden gazebo at the top of that hill here, looking over the majestic traffic. Actually, I am so happy to finally see traffic in this game. I feel like our traffic has been at 60%. I mean, it still is forever. So who knows if that graph is actually doing anything. But liking how everything's turned out over here. Of course, got some stained decals just to make it feel a little grittier. And like I said, row housing closer to our commercial center here before getting into the single family houses up here. And then I did end up adding these protective rocks along the walls here in between kind of the cliffs of the battery and the postal sorting facility. Not only for aesthetics, because they nicely fill in the gaps there, but it holds back any loose dirt that could fall down onto the roads here. Very quickly, let's take a look at this thin strip of land in between the highway exit and Beechwood Street, because I want to get some modular service blocks down to shore up our death care and park maintenance. So first, let's do death care. I'm going to go to our death care tab and get down a service block. Let's do it right here. And I need to upgrade it to make sure it has hearses available to it. And let's do a few more upgrades here. And I believe even with these, yes, you do have to select operating districts. I think that ought to do it. And then right next to it, let's do some park maintenance depot blocks. Or not depot, but service blocks. And interestingly enough, you do not need to select districts for this one. Okay. Now all we gotta do is hide it with some static poppables. Okay, simple enough. So for the rest of Beechwood Street, we can do some basic office and commercial zoning all the way up to this intersection here, I think. And to help with noise pollution from the ever-increasing traffic, which I'm guessing that's everyone just moving in, where are you going? Where is Castle Hill? Yep, okay, so new residents. Let's get some trees to act as a buffer in between the highway exit and the buildings themselves. Okay, that's looking good, getting more jobs for everyone moving in right here. I see on the right side of my screen though, something a little weird. You can see the highway goes down to 2 lanes right here, even though these 3 lanes are very close together. Same for this distance here. Let's just make this 3 lanes all throughout. So I'm gonna go to our highway tab, 3 lanes, and using the replace tool, we should be able to do this easy peasy. And that will obviously solve all of the traffic issues. Let's close out the episode by finally getting down our bus routes. And in terms of origins and destinations, I think the main ones are the Commercial Center and Transit Hub of Vallecito, the Hospital Complex, Portside Commons, since there are a bunch of jobs there, going down to Port Angeles and all the jobs and houses there. And then this out and back line will terminate at Discovery Park, just so people don't have to transfer to the tram line here, which is more for tourists, I think. So that'll be one line kind of serving this entire stretch of development here. But then I'll also want a loop within the suburbs, connecting houses to the various elementary schools here and sports facilities. And then finally, we'll get one connecting Port Angeles to Jardin Enchanté at the National Mall. Because remember, we did not extend the metro line out here. Didn't really think it was worth it since it's kind of short. So I think a bus route is perfect for that. But with that in mind, let's lay down our bus stops. So we're going to stick with our handy dandy North American bus stop signs and get them on either side of the street. Excellent. So that one kind of connects all the job centers on the southern coast here, and we're going to call this the Dimbus Discovery Line. And for those new to the channel, all of our buses are Dimbus for Del Mar Bus System, except this one has a typo. The suburban loop will be a little trickier because I'd like to make use of the collectors and this arterial here because these narrow residential streets are a little too tight for our buses. I don't, however, want buses just stopping on the right side of this street here because it's a little more higher speed and narrower sidewalk. So I've actually gone ahead with Road Builder to create a version of this 4-lane road narrow with buses on either side just to be a little safer. So we'll have a stop here by our Sports Hub Pavilion in this commercial center. Then it's going to loop, I think, down through Costa Ladera, get these houses here before making its way through Port Angeles. We'll have a stop by the high school as well. Then it's going to come back, hit up this elementary school and the soccer field. And I'm thinking for that, you can see we have a pedestrian path here. So if we have a stop right here, that can hit both the field and the elementary school in one go. Then it'll make its way up to Los Altos Elementary School before winding its way back down through the affordable housing unit, getting the high school, and then completing at the bus station again. So let's upgrade these two stretches of Laurel Street with the bus lanes first. And for that, I'm actually going to go to find it. For some reason, Road Builder roads have not been appearing on my my road tab here, but it's right here, 4-lane road with narrow bus. And I'm simply going to replace this section and then fix the landscaping. Easy enough. We'll do the same thing by the soccer field and then extend this path down right there. And I kind of like how there's an extra node there, so it's not right up against the intersection there. And this is making me realize that there are no school buses in this game. So this is just for like public transportation. If there's a school bus, that would definitely go to the school's parking lot itself, just so kids aren't walking up this path all the time. This is more for like the general population. But okay, with that, let's get down our other bus stops. And I'm thinking let's stop. So we'll come down here by the hospital again, but let's go through, get these houses right here. We'll have a stop in this stretch. For this one, we'll do some covered stops here. And then it's actually going to turn down here. We'll have a stop by these houses on Costa Ladera. It'll loop around there. Let's do one more stop by these businesses here. And then from there, it's going to loop back down. We'll have a transfer point here before making its way back up to this high school and the colon clinic. From there, it'll turn left, go back up. It'll get to this stop here. We'll do more covered spots. Then take another left, go up to Los Altos High School, elementary school. Make its way back down Laurel Street. We'll stop by these businesses here. And then we'll have a stop by this housing complex and the police station and this school here. One more stop by the high school and the kindergarten, and then finally it'll stop at the bus station. And look at all those buses lining up to get people. Love it. And from here, I'm thinking we should probably have one more to serve these houses out here. I'll do that in a second. And then we'll go the opposite direction. And I've said in the past that loops don't really work in this game. Like only one loop ever gets traffic, but for completion's sake, we'll do both directions. And we'll call those the Los Altos loop, just for the alliteration. And as I mentioned, I do want to get 2 more spots on this Castle Hill Street. The final bus line, as I mentioned, will connect Port Angeles to Jardin Enchanté and the metro stop here. So this should be pretty straightforward. We'll just come down Daffodil Street here. We'll have to stop by these businesses there. We'll take a right, go down to the metro stop here before looping around. One more stop at the National Gallery of Art before coming back down right into the stops here by the Discovery Park tram line. We'll keep those there. And I think this is a case where I will only do one loop since this entire section is out and back anyway. And I'm aware that this one is the other road that I mentioned where I wanted dedicated bus lanes, but I feel like in a denser environment like this, it should be lower speed, so I'm okay if the bus stops right on the lane there. We just don't have enough room to add more bus lanes there anyway. And we'll call this the Port Angeles Jardin Enchanté line. Or PAJA line. Love it. Did I misspell that? I did. There we go. And you could say that we're underserving Minnesota here with public transportation, but in my mind, this is an extremely wealthy area, so they have their own cars, they can deal with it. And with that, I think I'm ready to call it for today. So as always, thank you so much for watching. It feels really good to be back in Dewy del Mar, and hopefully you feel the same. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. But if you have any ideas of what to do with our bus routes, if you think we need more here, let me know in the comments. Any ideas of what to do with this random mound of dirt as well, I'd be happy to read. You can see it's pretty steep, so I didn't want to just flatten it to add more factories there. But let me know if you have any thoughts there. Same for over here across the metro. I was really hoping to get the Shard Arena in this spot, but if we open it up, it's a signature building. There you are. It's just a little too big unless we delete some sub-elements, so we might have to work with that. Although I just saw this deep blue oceanarium, and it's a little smaller, and I wonder if that's a good fit for this area. Although, I'm not sure I would want that right next to an oil refinery. That might be cooler for our eventual touristy area by this coast over there. But anything else, let me know in the comments, and as always, have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye!